At Direct Service Garage Doors, we are your one-stop shop for all things garage door. From garage door repair and broken spring replacement to new garage doors and openers, we do it all. We're proud to be among the highest-rated local garage door companies in all of Central Arkansas. Our highly trained technicians are available 24 hours a day at no extra cost to you. So if you have an emergency, call us today, 501-244-3667, or visit our website at directserviceoverhead.com. Don't wait days. We'll fix it now.
All right, welcome everybody. Hang on just a second. Getting OBS, getting my broadcast software straightened out here. Make sure you guys, as you're piling in, make sure you check out the poll that is located above here or on your screen in chat. Hogs can upset either Tennessee or Bama on the road? Question mark. You guys tell me right now. 67% of you say yes, but only a few votes. So let's make sure as you're coming in to click that box, go check out that poll. Again, as I'm trying to get some of this stuff squared away. All right, let's just go ahead and do this. 3, 2, 1. Yo, what's going on? All right, happy Monday. Oh, I hate saying that. My kids are out of school today, so yeah, it's already been a little bit of a challenge this morning, for sure. Who else can relate? I'm sure some of you. What's going on, JR? Welcome. Tennessee is definitely beatable. Yeah, Tennessee, some arguing that they may not even be a top 4, top 5 team right now in the SEC. We know they've got a couple of injuries. They got some stuff going on. But you know what? We're gonna take this one game at a time as Arkansas gets prepared. They've got Georgia coming in the house tomorrow, and of course we're going to talk about that matchup. We're going to talk about this weekend in baseball, and we're just going to try and get some of the stuff straightened out, get it all put out there. We have, I don't know if y'all can hear that or not, but this fan is driving me insane. I'm just gonna have to turn it off for the love of God. All right. First off, shout out to Patreon supporters. You know I'm unable to do this without you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. For those of you just now coming in, again, please make sure you take the poll. If you have any questions, feel free to comment or whatever. Where does Georgia rank in the SEC? In power poll, that's a good question. Bottom 4, Aaron. They're not a very good basketball team. And again, we're going to get to them in just a second. Shout out to sponsors. Direct Service Overhead, the garage door repair company, located in Central and in Northwest Arkansas. They offer same-day services, emergency service. They kind of do it all. Direct Service does. Oh, boy, my... Here we go. I don't know what's going on. I tell you, we've been having so many technical issues here lately, and I don't know. I think my computer's about it's about on its way out. But again, Direct Service Overhead, the garage door company. We kind of already discussed a little bit of what they do. You guys know. Give them a call, 501-244-3667. Again, better than best results, hundreds of 5-star reviews, affordable outcomes. Really happy to have them still on as a sponsor. give them a call if you guys need some work done on your garage doors. Apex Tattoo Studio, located at 201 South 19th Street in Rogers, Arkansas. 479-278-2694 is the phone number to call if you want to get set up for some ink. They're offering tap-out sessions, meaning they just keep going. You tell them to keep going, they keep going while they've got you on the table. And then if you mention Tuss Talk with Ty, you get a 10% discount on top of that. Guys, some of that stuff gets expensive, and 10% can knock off quite a bit of money. So if you're in the Northwest Arkansas area, you're looking to get some ink done, go hit up the Apex Tattoo Studio. And, of course, the Odd Soul, located on Emma Street in Springdale, the craft bar, pizzeria, fantastic stuff on tap, local IPAs, and you guys know how I feel about them pies. They're delicious. Their pies are so scrumptious. I've not had anything. I want to go there and try the calzone. I've never had their calzone. I need to, or calzone, sorry. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Their calzone. I want to go try it out. Hogs taking care of business at Tennessee, says Will. They look beatable. Neutral floor, at home, or on the road. They absolutely do. They look beatable. That game is, I would have said 3 weeks ago, based on kind of where Arkansas was at, right before the reset button looked like they may have hit it, right? I would have said, no, that game right now, it's not on the table. Tennessee's arguably a top 5 team, top 3 team in the country. Despite their loss they had at that point at home, I still felt like that game might be out of reach for Arkansas. It looked like a team that they probably slept on. Tennessee, one of their losses for sure at home. I don't think they would sleep on Arkansas, and I definitely still don't think they would. I don't think Tennessee would sleep on the Hogs. Listen, anytime the University of Arkansas walks into a building recently, the last 3 years, with Musselman at the helm, with Arkansas basketball seemingly being back, everyone's on notice. I mean, you go back to the SEC Big 12 matchup, Baylor, I mean, that place was filled up. Oklahoma State, every time Arkansas's gone there, even with or without whoever's the head coach, that place fills up. For whatever reason, Arkansas is just one of those teams. I don't know, maybe it's just the fact that they were on the tip of the iceberg for so long. They're on the tip of being back, and then Musselman took them over, right? And since Musselman's been the guy, now it's like the hatred of the Razorbacks is on full blast. They definitely don't like Eric Musselman. We all know that. I mean, I don't think the SEC. I don't think the guys in the black and white stripes don't. I don't think they like Eric Musselman. And that's starting to feel less and less like an opinion. Yeah, Aaron, to answer your question, I would put Georgia. I would say Georgia's probably bottom 3 in the SEC. They're bottom 3, bottom 4. At their best, they're capable of being a middle of the road SEC team. Scott, what's going on, man? How you doing? If we make Final Four, you getting a tat? I would. I'll be real. If they make it to the Elite 8, I would probably get a tattoo. I want to celebrate that, right? 3 straight Elite 8 appearances. Haven't done that in a while, right? Well, they beat Bama too, though. They play better at home. They do. Everyone plays better at home. Yeah, of course they do. They have shown that they've slept on teams as well. I don't think they would sleep on Arkansas, though. Yeah, they beat Bama. All right. But they've also lost some games you look at and you go, how the hell did they lose that game? Tennessee looks beatable. You know, I mean, they were swept by Kentucky this year. They lost to Florida, right? They lost to Arizona, but Arizona's clearly Arizona's Arizona. They lost to Colorado earlier in the year, but that, kind of doesn't matter early on in the year. But they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. They lost to Vanderbilt, Missouri, which was a good game. I caught a little bit of that game, a little bit. I went back, watched it where I could find it on YouTube. That's actually a pretty entertaining game. Some controversy, but all SEC games have some controversy. Alabama, they did beat 68-59 at home. They are, again, they'll show up. But they have shown between them and Alabama, they are the team that is the most likely that you feel like Arkansas could get past. I would say, I'm not saying that they could or that they would or wouldn't, but I feel like if you wanted to circle one of those 2 games, I would probably circle Tennessee being the most likely. The way this year's gone, though, I mean, absolutely anything could happen. You could go 0-2. You could go 2-0. You could go 1-1, beating Bama instead of Tennessee. I don't know. This has been a crazy year. Tennessee is a little bit banged up. What's going on, Philip? How you doing, man? These pork chops smothered in white gravy. Can't say that I've. No, wait. I have had pork chops smothered in gravy, and it is fantastic. Yeah. If Arkansas makes the Elite Eight, I'll get a tat. I will. I'll get a tattoo. I'll go to Apex Tattoo. We might even film it for sure. All right. Hey, make sure you guys take the poll. For those of you coming in right now, we're at 73% of you saying yes. Yes, Arkansas can absolutely upset either Tennessee. I don't know why I have a habit of just ignore the way I capitalize certain letters. I have a habit when I type out my titles, if you look, every beginning of each word is capitalized because that's just what you're supposed to do. I do that in my polls, and I don't correct. Anyways, but Hogs can either upset Tennessee or Bama on the road. Either. Didn't say both, just said either. Hogs can upset either Tennessee or Bama on the road. And 73% of you saying, yeah, I think so. I hate that you're sick, man. Philip, hope you get feeling better. This weekend was kind of wild. It was wild. It was kind of a mixed emotions weekend. Arkansas, oh, man, almost getting run ruled in Game 2 in baseball and then turning around in Game 3 and actually run ruling a really, I thought was supposed to be a really good opponent, Oklahoma State, getting absolutely smothered by Arkansas hitting. Just incredible pitching. Everything was on point. Everything was on point. All right, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. I appreciate the super chats. Thank you, Aaron, as always. I'm just going to call you Super Chat Aaron. Every one of these, you're smacking the old Super Chat button. Fishman says Tennessee seems more beatable right now, and that is that I would agree with that. I think they do. I think they look more beatable. Well, let's start off first with a little bit of baseball. Arkansas got off to a decent start. Texas, who went 0-3 in this thing apparently. Arkansas wins this game. Wasn't pretty. They end up a win's a win. I mean, baseball, look, you're going to have nights where you're just off. You know, maybe the bullpen, the opposing bullpen is just tough. They're pitching. They're better pitchers. They're not kind of wasting arms or anything. They just want to sample what they've got out of the bullpen, which is exactly what Arkansas did, I think, in Game 2 versus TCU. I think you saw a number of guys that probably won't play in weekend games this season. They'll play in some midweek games. Maybe. We'll see. I know they're really hyped about that freshman Wood. I know they're Dave Van Horn thinks Wood's going to turn out. But Texas in this one gets beat. Arkansas wins 3-2. And then Game 2 on the 18th, TCU just smokes Arkansas 18-6. 18-6. They take care of business. And then Arkansas in Game 3, they take the win there 18-1 with a run rule, ending it in 7 innings. Just a fantastic ass beating. I loved every second of it. Rock, more like pebble. So he bat flipped. I did not get to catch much baseball this weekend. I either had the radio on or I tried to stream, in a certain Discord, tried to watch the stream. Okay, we tried to stream it in our Discord, and we did. Tried to watch it. Wasn't able to really catch much. I watched a few innings of Game 1 against Texas. Didn't catch much of Game 2, and then Game 3 I didn't get to see much of either. I was helping my in-laws clean out their garage. It's kind of a long story. My father-in-law's mother's house or garage. They've got it on the market. They're selling it. So I was there helping clean it out, and so I wasn't able to watch Game 3. We had it on the phone. We had it up, but no one could really hear it. No one was really paying attention to it. So I'd have to walk back to my phone to try to catch what I could. But I made it work one way or another. But it was so fun to. I would ask Discord, "What's the score?" And someone at one point was like, "Oh yeah, it's just like 10-1 or whatever." And it was fantastic. Fishman says tattoos don't age well. What does age well, though, Fish? Outside of like wine, what on the human body ages well? Dude is so short, he tripped trying to round first, which led to his getting his hardest hit of the game when he face planted. Someone tweeting saying Rock Riggio was Arkansas's daddy. I saw that, and they're getting flamed about that. Yeah, I saw that. Oh no! Good job. You got one player that plays well against Arkansas. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State is owned by the Razorbacks. Oklahoma State baseball just completely dominated. Let's talk about the MVP of the weekend. Who is the MVP of the weekend for Arkansas athletics for the men's? Is it Jalen Graham coming off the bench getting 24? Was it 24 points in 26 minutes? Is that who the MVP is of the weekend, or was it Jared Wagner? Did you guys see what he did? 8 RBIs in the weekend. He's got a batting average right now. I just had it pulled up. 545 batting average. Now, okay, not super uncommon through the first 3 games of the year. You've seen that before where guys get their first 10, 12 at-bats, and they do pretty well. You know, it's just a mismatch. Teams aren't really familiar. They don't have a lot of, they don't know a ton about this opposing team, right? You don't know what their pitching staff is capable of. You're getting to know each other a little bit, and sure, there's some of that, right? Guys start to develop reputations, and coaches are very well aware of it. It's in football, basketball, and baseball, all 3 major sports. They do it. And maybe you can argue that's some of it, but you'd have to make the same argument about Wegner versus pitching. He doesn't know anything about these guys. I'm sure they've done a little bit of scouting, but not much. You don't know compared to like this year versus last year, right? Wegner doesn't – it's not like he's, this is week 1. I would say that the pitcher has the biggest advantage, right? The batter should be at the biggest disadvantage. Guys go back to the dugout after facing that pitcher for the first time, and he says, oh, well, he's, his heat, I think they're clocking him at like 93, 95, or, man, that off-speed pitch, watch for it. Watch the inside corner. They're talking to each other when they get to the dugout, right? Anyone who's played baseball knows this. Anyone who's watched it long enough, the coaching staff, the hitting coach, they're talking in the dugout. You kind of get to know what the opposing pitching staff. So, if anything, the batters are at a bigger disadvantage, and yet Wegner goes out. He knocks in 8 RBIs over the weekend, a 545 batting average. Kendall Diggs, by the way, with a 375. John Bolton, 364. Blady Slavens, 333. And Jace Balford. Really good to see him in the plus 300 category at 333. But, not a bad way to start for Wegner at all. Is he going to be the prime hitter? Is he going to be the RBI guy for the Hogs? Listen, we all thought it might be maybe someone like Stovall, of course Slavens, of course Diggs. And that still could be the case. But it's nice that we're talking about how many Razorbacks were 300 or above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different Razorbacks this weekend batting over 300. It's early. They're going to dip, and some guys are going to raise. Now, the guy that I said to keep an eye on, I'm not going to tell you to watch out for anybody because I think I cursed Caleb Cali. This dude was struck out 7 times. He was hit with 7 Ks this weekend. He has a 0.00 batting average. Not a good weekend for Caleb Cali. I certainly believe he's the kind of guy. He's a JUCO All-American. I certainly believe he's going to be the kind of guy that's going to turn it around eventually. Peyton Stovall last year, a little bit different. He's younger. It's hard to make that comparison. High school, you play in front of how many people? And you could say the same thing about JUCO, right? You don't play in front of these large crowds. Maybe that had something to do with it. I'm sure it did. But he is older than Stovall as a new Hog this year. He's got to pick that up. Callie, who could play the corners. He could play third or first base. And that's what makes him a little bit versatile when you're talking about, defensively. Like what you like about him is he's someone who could play the third or first base. Where he's at in the lineup it's certainly probably going to change. Hopefully he has a good comeback game next weekend. They've got Grambling tomorrow. Don't ask me who's going to pitch. I have no idea who's pitching tomorrow. I don't know what the lineup's going to look like tomorrow, but of course it's going to be different as expected, but I'm curious because they're about to play Eastern Illinois, who I believe is 3-0. They went undefeated this weekend. I don't know a ton about them. A friend of mine who listens to like all baseball podcasts swears up and down that Eastern Illinois is going to be a matchup. It's going to be a tough game for Arkansas next week. I don't know. That's my boy Jeff. I don't know if this guy listens to all the baseball podcasts. He thinks Eastern Illinois is going to be stout, and that's going to be a really good test for Arkansas. I don't know. That's not me speaking. No idea. They are 3-0. So he was right when he said that. You know, I mean, he thought Arkansas would have their hands full, and I talked to him like 2 weeks ago. He thought, don't sleep on Eastern Illinois. They've got some cats. They got some dogs on that lineup. They're supposed to be a pretty good hitting squad too this year. Anyways, I like where Arkansas stands right now from a hitting standpoint. I mean, they averaged, you know, game one, I think they ended up with I had it tallied here. Game one, let's see, 8 hits. Now, again, you had 3 RBIs. Not a fantastic matchup. But, you know, Hagen Smith, by the way, 5 innings. If I'm looking at this right, 5 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, 17 batters faced. I mean, you know, yeah, I'm sure some of the moves there, you know, Cody Adcock, Cody Frank, and, of course, Brady Tigert came in to close the thing out. Tigert, by the way. Maybe we're not talking enough about Brady Tigert. Tigert came in and had so much command. I was talking with some people in Discord about it. Kelly Marie was in on it too. Good to have her back in the Discord. Hopefully she'll stick around. But her and I were talking about it. We know that you know, she's a baseball diehard, her and her husband Lance. And we're talking about how much command Tigert had. He looked very poised. Maybe he'll get back to, maybe we'll see that the best version of himself more often. So, and of course, we'll see him next weekend against Eastern Illinois. We'll see what he's capable of. Maybe that'll be a good test for him. But Hagen Smith, Cody Adcock, Cody Frank, it looks like got the nod against Texas and pitched pretty well. 2, 4, 5 hits given up. I think I'm looking at that right. I had copy and pasted some stuff onto my screen here, and I'm not sure if it's 100% accurate. But yeah, pitching looked pretty good game one. TCU, I don't know what the hell happened. Bats were fine. You had. I mean, I say fine. They were all right. I mean, it's not like you had 6 RBIs. You scored 6 runs. You had 9 hits. Your pitching just kind of fell apart. Will McIntyre did not have a great beginning. Arkansas with 2, 4, 6, 7 Ks, so they had 7 strikeouts. Zach Morris pitched 3+ innings. Faced 14 batters. But you saw a number of guys here. You know, Gage Wood is someone they really want to get going this year, right? We saw, I mean, they ended up, how many different pitchers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different pitchers against TCU. I certainly believe a number of those guys are going to, I don't think that many of these guys are going to see the weekend. These are going to be weekday guys in the coming out of the bullpen. You know, your middle relief pitchers for the week. Maybe some of them will crack into the order, the pitching order. Maybe some of these guys will develop into certain matchup type pitchers, right? Like, you know, maybe you got a tough, you know, next part of the batting order coming up that you want to, maybe this guy, you know how it is. You have the mismatch there. Maybe that's what they're looking for out of these guys. These are individualist pitchers, like certain individuals, certain type of batter they could pitch against really well. Maybe this guy struggles against the off speed. Maybe this guy struggles against a different certain kind of pitch, whatever. Maybe that's what some of these cats are. I don't know, but they certainly struggled. Gage Wood struggled. Of course, you put him in a tough situation. I think he had runners on the corner, if I remember right, for Gage Wood. What a tough scenario. And I'm sure Dave Van Horn was doing that on purpose. Wanted to see how a guy, and pretty sure he said this himself, that he's probably going to rely on Wood to come in and get some opportunities. Why not test him against a red-hot TCU team with runners on the corner? And I think at that point TCU had just one out. But and he faltered, but that's okay. It's non-con. It's way early in the season. Not a big deal, right? You just want to see how Wood would respond. He would respond in the next game, right? But Arkansas versus Oklahoma State was fantastic from a hitting standpoint. From pitching and hitting. Really enjoyed what I saw there. Again, Wagner comes through big time. 5 RBIs. Again, he had 8 RBIs on the weekend. Wagner's got to be the MVP of the weekend, right? Or is it Graham coming off the bench for the Razorbacks, 26 minutes, 24, 25 points, whatever it was huge for Arkansas. But do you win without Graham in versus Florida? Yeah, I think you win without Graham. But it was still nice to see. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe, Graham lit it up, dude. Graham, maybe you don't win without Graham. Maybe, or it's at very least a tougher game. Stovall this weekend also not the greatest outing for Stovall. What did I say he ended up with? Yeah, he's at 222 on his batting average. So he had 9 at-bats over the weekend. Tavion Josenberger with the most at-bats, 13 at-bats, 231 average. And, again, Jared Wagner, 545 to get things started off through the first weekend. We'll see if he can keep it hot. We'll see what he can do. The SEC opening weekend, Alabama, God help me, 3-0 to start the season. Oh, boy. Their fans are going to be bad enough they already discovered basketball. Like their fans discovered, oh, shit, what's this game called? Basketball? Oh, man. Oh, shit, we're God's gift to the earth now because we discovered basketball. We're the best that's ever existed. Oh, they're going to be intolerable with baseball. I know it's early, but listen, I think D1 baseball has them in the top 25 because, of course, they do. They play in the SEC. Arkansas 2-1, Auburn 2-1, Tigers 3-0. Number 1 team in the country so far, living up to it. Mississippi State 2-1, Ole Miss 3-0, Aggies 3-0, Gators 3-0, Georgia 2-1, Kentucky 2-1, Mizzou 2-1, Carolina, are they back? 3-0, too early, can't say. Vanderbilt 2-1, and wait for it. Opening weekend for the Vols 1-2. The worst opening weekend of all 14 teams in the SEC, and it feels so good. I don't care what they do the rest of the year. I mean, I do when they come to Fayetteville, but they started off the opening weekend. You can't take that back. Your opening weekend, you went 1-2. Suck it, Volunteers. Oh, it just makes you feel so good. Arkansas going 2-1, whipping that ass, Oklahoma State. Beating the Longhorns. Yeah, TCU happened. Again, I really think that was an experimental thing on the mound, and TCU's red hot at the plate. Come talk to us in May, TCU. Let's see where you're at in May and June. Then we can have a conversation about who's really a better team. Maybe Arkansas falls flat on their face. I don't know. I certainly liked what they did at the plate. Again, they averaged something like 10 hits per game. I mean, again, it's a very small sample size. It was 9 hits game 1, 8 hits game 2, and then 14 hits, I think, game 3. So, I mean, they're right around 10 hits a game. We'll see if, again, they're going to have to, SEC play, they're going to want to do a little bit better than that, but that's still not bad. Not a bad weekend. The RBIs, Wagner tearing it up, 8 RBIs. It's a great weekend. But I love seeing that Tennessee started off 1-2 in opening weekend. Now, they're well coached. They got a good team. They got a ton of talent. I'm sure they'll be fine. Would not shock me if Tennessee – I tell you what is fascinating, the fact that they lost to 2 unranked teams in D1 baseball moved them back 1 spot. Meanwhile, Arkansas goes they split versus top 15 teams. They run rule a top 10 team on day 3. Yeah, they got beat pretty bad against TCU. They beat an unranked Texas, but it's still Texas. They're floating around right outside the top 25. And they move back a spot, but Tennessee loses to 2 non-cons, unranked non-cons, and they only move back a spot? Listen, I think they would do the same if it was Arkansas. I mean, they just would. I do think D1 puts value in how promising, Tennessee really – I mean, they should be good. But, I mean, we've seen them year after year. They're number 1. Their top 3 teams they're not always dead on about, right? And who is? Preseason polls are kind of a joke. They're just kind of fun to talk about. I think baseball is maybe one of the most difficult sports to predict, and especially with the transfer portal. Bubba was talking about that this weekend. The transfer portal has made things – it's just so challenging because you have these guys that are big time – there's just talent kind of spread out all over the place. I still think it has a bigger impact in basketball than it does baseball, but I think it's basketball, baseball, and football. Football could be pretty big when you get a big enough prospect like at quarterback, right? And we've seen that. We've seen guys benefit big-time players go to other big-time schools at quarterback and take that team to whatever. We're seeing that, and that can have a big impact. But, basketball, it could be one player, and it completely changes the dynamic of the product on the floor. Let's get back to chat here. Situational specialist. There you go. That's another way of putting it. Tavion was getting really unlucky those first two games. He was hitting the ball well, just not in the right spots. I know they hit into a couple of double plays against TCU, and they missed out on a couple of double plays, a couple opportunities or so I was told. Game 2 against TCU definitely looked like they were figuring out the Game 2 pitching lineup. Yeah, again, it was experimental. I certainly believe that was the case. We'll see what they do with the bullpen moving forward. Maybe some of these guys crack their way in. Listen, we know Dave Van Horn puts a lot of emphasis on what these guys do in practice as well as game situations. Wouldn't shock me if some of these cats do find their way. Next weekend, you could have a similar look coming out of the bullpen. I don't know, but it certainly seemed to me like someone said in I think it was Discord where I read this, outside of the first two pitchers, the other 5 or so pitchers had zero experience pitching in college. Had zero experience. I know they rushed out some freshmen. Will's coming off the Tennessee train, just as we start picking up momentum. Oh, Boss Hogs talking about football or basketball. Yeah. All right. Weekend good for baseball. Again, I love what I saw from a hitting standpoint. Yeah, Texas, I don't know much about what Arkansas faced against with Texas in terms of their pitching, but they still managed to get some hits. It's just a matter of getting guys to score at that point, right? Getting them on base. When you've got runners in scoring position, getting them on base. Remember early last year, that was something we complained about often was they'd have guys in scoring position. They would just struggle to bring them home. They got Grambling at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Now, Grambling right now 1-2 out of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. They faced Prairie View in a game they lost in the Cactus Jack HBCU Classic in Houston, Texas. They lost that game to Prairie View 7-5. They lost to Southern 4-3 on Saturday. On Sunday, they beat Mississippi Valley State 14-4. And so they're coming into town. Arkansas is home. They're home. All right. Let's wrap this thing up with basketball and Nick Smith talk. A little Nick Smith talk and some basketball talk. Again, appreciate the super chat from Arian Harbison. Super chat is up and running. Pardon the ad that's about. Don't get upset, but an ad's coming up. Ads inserted. So, all right. Definitely some bias since I'm a huge basketball fan. Who doesn't care much about basketball? But Graham is. Wait, what? Definitely some bias since I'm a huge basketball fan. Who doesn't? Okay, my bad. I was reading that wrong. Who doesn't care much about basketball? But Graham is definitely my MVP. Okay, so Graham's the MVP for you, for Brady Lewis. I think it's hard for me to not say Graham because of that performance off the bench for him was so huge. Wagner, I mean, bro, what a weekend for that guy. 8 RBIs with a 545 average. I mean, big weekend for him. Can't say Texas will be all that bad. Season before last, they started off 0-3, ended up winning 50 games. Yeah, I think there were a couple teams last year that ended up in the College World Series. I think one of them started off 0-3. I saw that graphic when watching it was a YouTube video actually I watched, and they were talking about some of the teams that got off to a slow start. Yeah, we all know baseball is a sport. When you heat up, it's about when you heat up. It's about, like, you could be the best team. Look at Tennessee last year. I've said it before. I don't think anyone was beating them last year. Now, if they caught, like, Arkansas towards the end of the year, yeah, they probably, in a 3-game series and bomb, they probably lose that series. I thought Arkansas towards the end of that year, although a little spotty at times, I think Arkansas, you could argue, was starting to get things slowly figured out. And then postseason, they got things figured out and obviously made a run into the College World Series. But it's all about when you get hot. You know, you say the same thing about Major League Baseball. You get these teams, the final 20 games of the year or post-July All-Star break, and they just start to get hot. They start to feel it, and then postseason's right around the corner. You know, you're getting into September, and all of a sudden you're feeling it, right? You see that happen quite a bit. It's the same thing in college baseball. It's about when you get hot. How you start doesn't matter. Tennessee starting 1-2 doesn't matter. You went 0-3 this weekend, but you still feel pretty good about the pieces out of the bullpen, and you're still pretty solid hitting squad. You're in the SEC, and you're considered a top 5, top 6 SEC team to come into the season. If you live up to those expectations, then it's all about how well you play at the end of the season. How well are you hitting? How well do you like the batting order? How's that lineup looking? How you feeling? Maybe you've got a couple of arms. You feel good about a couple of closers. You got a couple of guys you can rely on to get a solid final 3 or 4 outs. Does Arkansas have that? I think obviously they have that in Tigard, but you know, a lot of things kind of, you know, it's a long, complicated season. It's a lot of, especially in this league. There's no point in, you know, people were hitting the exit button, right, for the baseball game. I saw it in Discord when TCU had a huge lead and they got out to that huge lead. Everyone dropped out of the live chat. Everyone was out. They were done. And I saw some doomsday nonsense on Twitter and Facebook, and it is what it is, man. It's too early in the year to panic. 1-2 doesn't mean shit for a team like Tennessee. They're going to be fine. I just love seeing that their opening weekend that they started off 1-2. I love seeing that. All right, Nick Smith. Let's talk Nick Smith and Georgia. Georgia's not a very good team. Definitely not in. I don't think they have a prayer to get into the NCAA tournament. Right now, this is from ESPN. They have Tennessee and Alabama as locks, of course. Should be in category. They have Arkansas, A&M, Auburn, Missouri, and Kentucky. Mississippi State they have under the work to do tab. But here's what they say. I don't know who wrote this. I'm not scrolling all the way back up. Here's what they say about Arkansas. Should be in. Jalen Graham came off the bench. Dropped 26 points. Did I say 24 earlier? That's my bad. 26 points on Florida in 27 minutes as Arkansas won at home by 19. Rating systems up to including the net ranking suspect the Razorbacks are a stronger team than their 18-9 record and projected number 10 seed would indicate. Eric Musselman's group will have every opportunity to prove this is indeed the case. After hosting Georgia, the Hogs will close with road games at Bama and Tennessee and a home date against Kentucky. So, yeah, Jalen Graham was fantastic, man. I mean, career high. How great was that for Jalen Graham against Florida? I was pretty excited about that. By the way, Arkansas, Tennessee, if you're wondering, the matchup predictor, take it for what it is, has Tennessee favored at 87%. So just FYI, that's really high, and I don't think that's right. I would give Arkansas right now I'd give them about a 40% chance. I think right now with Tennessee right now today, of course, you know, that'll change, but that's what that number's based on. That number's based on today. Now it'll change when you get up there. Georgia 16-11, 6-8 in conference play. Arkansas 18-9, right at 500 at 7-7. Favored at almost 94% to win this game, 93.7. Georgia doesn't really do much of anything good. I mean, I was trying to look over some numbers last night and this morning. They're pretty good at getting to the free throw line. I think they're actually like the second or third best team in the SEC at getting to the free throw line. It could be a game tomorrow night that takes a while. It could be a 2-hour or 2.5 hour game. It could be 2:30 plus. They're really good at getting to the free throw line. They're not a great free throw shooting team. They're not a great rebounding team. I think they're last I saw they were like bottom of college basketball in points per game, but that can always be within 2 points, right? But they are underneath 70 points a game. They're not a great rebounding team. They're like bottom middle of the SEC and towards the middle of overall in college basketball. You know, they're allowing 70 points a game. Now, they have some interesting, a little bit of interesting guard play. Terry Roberts, 6'3", 180 pounds, averaging 14 points. Cario Aquindo, 12, almost 13 points a game. Justin Hill, 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's at 8 points a game. Aquindo, who's 6'4". He's from what I could tell of their guards that get solid play, he's one of their taller guards. Now, they just came off an absolute, you talk about a demoralizing loss to Alabama, 108-59. Moncrief, one of their bigs, he got 20 minutes, 2 points in that game. Bridges, another one of their bigs, had 10 points. Hill got him 17 points. A little bit of bench production. Roberts, who comes off the bench, he ended up with 11 points. They'll go pretty balanced. They'll be a 3-guard, maybe a couple forwards or Bridges and then another forward. That'll kind of be their look to start off with. I'm assuming it'll be Hill, Holt, and Aquindo for their starting 3 guards. We'll see what they do. They've got some options down and around the paint. They got a couple of guys that can come off the bench and get them 5 rebounds. They've got guys that can come off the bench and get them some numbers around the glass. They've got guys that can do that. Kayron Lindsey, Matthew Alexander Moncrief, those are 2 guys, and Braylon Bridges, who gets about almost 20 minutes a game. He's averaging close to 5 rebounds. They've got guys that can come off the bench and can get you some who can get you some second chance opportunities, but they're not an elite offensive rebounding team. They're going to be frustrating. This is going to be a frustrating game. They're going to try and match you physically. Arkansas this should be a game. Again, it ought to be something similar to Florida. I would pick Arkansas. I'd say Arkansas 12. I liked Arkansas over Florida at 10. Obviously, I was way off on that one as they won, as I said earlier, pretty big. But I feel like this should be a 10 to 12 point. That's where I would put Arkansas as the favorite. I'm kind of over just giving out. Well, I will say, this feels like an 84-70 kind of game. It does. It has that feel. So let's talk about Nick Smith here for just a second. He's on the thumbnail for a reason. He's in the title a little bit there, at the tail end of the title for a reason. Nick Smith gets one more opportunity before you get into the high-quality play in the SEC. The best that the SEC has to offer is coming up after Georgia for the Razorbacks. This is a get-right kind of game. It's at home, right? Georgia's not a good team at home, neutral floor, or on the road, period. They're just not. They're not a good team. I kind of wonder, watching them play a little bit, how they have the wins they have. They are scratchy. They will try to match you up physically. They did beat Auburn. They beat Auburn 76-64. Now, I'm not real big on Auburn. I'm just not. They went on the road and lost to Auburn 94-73. They lost to A&M 82-57. That was recently, about a week and a half ago. And then they won their 2 home games against Kentucky. I don't know how the hell they beat Kentucky, but Kentucky at that point was still kind of scratching their heads. They're starting to figure things out. They had a huge win recently. They barely got by an atrocious LSU team, 65-63. And then they go on the road against Alabama, and they just get wiped off the map. These guys lost to Florida. Georgia Tech, who last I saw was – what is Georgia Tech up to these days? Are they any good? No, they're 11-16. So their in-state rival. Come on. Georgia's just not a good team, and I know that was a while ago, but whatever. They lost at Wake Forest. Understandable. But not a lot of high-quality wins here. They did beat Notre Dame, but – yeah, Auburn is right now, that's a good win for them. If they wanted to get into the conversation, I'm sure their staff are telling their players, look, if we win out, listen what they have left, what Georgia's playing for. If they can beat Arkansas on the road, this is what they're telling their players. You've got Missouri, Florida, and at South Carolina. All of those games are winnable. I don't think Arkansas is. Maybe if I were trying to spin this for the Georgia fan base, I would say that, like Nick Smith is still trying to find his way, and you could maybe argue that maybe there's still a little bit of a distraction, but you just saw what they just did to Florida. So, and whatever, but you could make the argument if we win these last 4 games and then we do some damage in the SEC tournament, maybe we could make our way into the conversation about being a bubble team. They're not. They would have to win out and win the whole damn thing to even be in. Georgia's bad. Georgia's not a good team. I didn't even look. What's their net ranking? What is Georgia's net ranking? Hang on. No, I'm not looking for top 16. I'm looking for net ranking. Here we go. Georgia. Where are you at? Why didn't I look this up this morning? I glanced at it last week, and it was pretty low. God. Oh, my God. Did I? Ole Miss is 129. Oh, my God. Georgia's a 131 net ranking. Holy shit. Okay, I didn't know they were that bad. I knew their net ranking wasn't great. Last I saw it was like in the 80s. I didn't know. Dear Lord, 131 net ranking. Yeah, they're 0-1. Or excuse me. Let's get this right. They're 1-8 on the road. 16-11 overall. 2-1 neutral floor. Okay, so I was wrong. They're decent on neutral floor. Who'd they play? 13-2 at home. That's not a bad home record, and that's why they've reached 13 wins. But they're 1-6 versus quad 1, 3-2 versus quad 2, 3-3 versus quad 3, and they're 9-0 in quad 4. Dear Lord, they're bad. 131 net ranking. Yeah, this could probably hurt you. What's up, Trey? How you doing, man? Welcome. Oh, by the way, don't forget to take the poll. Hogs can upset either Tennessee or Bama on the road, ? Right now, 82% of you are saying yes. Yeah, Georgia's bad. Georgia's really bad. They don't stand a prayer. They'd have to win out, and they'd have to blow everybody out to even then it wouldn't matter. Yeah, Georgia's not getting in. I didn't realize they were that bad. See, they're out. But I could see their staff. I've been trying to tell these guys, like, look, man, maybe you're telling me. So you're telling me there's a chance. 1 in a million. But Arkansas, this is it. This is a tune-up game. This is what this is for Nick Smith. This is one more opportunity for Nick Smith to find his way and to help Arkansas out on the offensive end of the floor. I love his defensive intensity. He's picked it up, but I think he's played pretty well on the defensive side of the floor. I really do. I think he's played pretty well on the defensive side of the ball. Is he Devo Davis consistent? We don't know. We have such a small sample size. But Nick Smith on the offensive end of the floor, we know he's a 3-level scorer. If he could figure it out, he could stretch the floor and knock down the 3 ball. We haven't seen it. I would love for him to turn that up here against Georgia and kind of show what he's capable of. We know he could score mid-range. We know. And by the way, that's kind of an old school way of scoring, right? The mid-range, the 15-foot jump shots. That's an OG way of scoring in basketball. Arkansas showing they can do that. They got a couple of guys that could score mid-range or down low in the paint. Nick Smith adds to that. Nick Smith is such a huge piece. You saw him. He's a big piece on the floor. You saw him when he had the ball and was trying to drive the lane several times. Florida was trying to either double team him, or you could tell the players out in the perimeter were coming down to crash. They wanted to prevent Nick Smith from doing any damage, and you'd either see Nick pass the ball or he would take the shot. Now, I think eventually, I don't know if Muss is already telling him this, go ahead and take the shot, Nick. Go ahead and do it. If you feel like you got a 12-foot floater in you, do it. Do what you got to do to get some points. Do what you got to do to get hot. And this is another opportunity against a team like Georgia. Again, you're not facing. They're going to be undersized compared to your guards, as that's going to be the case most of the time. The guys guarding him are not going to have his athletic ability. They're not going to have the reach, and they're not going to have the length, right? So, and definitely, probably not the skill more times than not. Especially assuming they get into the NCAA tournament. All of a sudden, you're going to have better guard play, though, right? You're going to start to probably see a little bit more length. That's why matchups matter. But Nick Smith, I think, has it in him to be a big presence on the floor and to not score 18 points. Because teams are going to do what they can, and it opens up the rest of the floor. And again, this is what I urge you guys, for those of you who haven't watched it yet, Go back and watch the Blake Lovell video. He points out so many good things. He talks about how much Nick Smith can help things open up for Devo, and Devo the same way with Nick Smith, right? And you add in a Ricky Council. Maybe we're starting to see these guys gel a little bit, or how much of that was Florida with a big-time injury, trying to make adjustments, a little bit different rotation and trying to figure out what to do against this overly athletic, overly talented Arkansas basketball team. They got a little desperate, and you could argue that's probably where a lot of this came from. Arkansas's dominance on the offensive end of the floor. Can they do that? Georgia, I think defensively, I don't know, comparing the two, I really don't know who's a better defense. Maybe Florida 100% healthy. Yeah, I think they're top 4, top 3 defense when they play at their best, but without Castleton, they're gonna struggle a lot. We know they're a really good perimeter defensive team, but Georgia probably below. I would argue even now probably below or slightly above Florida as a defensive team on the floor, based on what I've seen and what reading I've done. These guys are again. It's another opportunity for Arkansas to take a big step in the right direction on the scoring end of the floor, gain a little bit of confidence, and start to kind of figure out what piece works as you get into the rest of the schedule, these last 3 games, which are going to be tough. Has Kentucky figured it out? Is Kentucky starting to play a little bit better basketball now? Like, what's going on with the Wildcats, right? I mean, right now, that's your final home game, and Kentucky has beaten Mississippi State on the road. Mississippi State has been salty, and then they beat Tennessee 66-54 at home. They've got at Florida, Auburn, and Vanderbilt. It would not shock me if Kentucky – I'm not sold that it'll happen because I think they'll slip up either against Vanderbilt or against Auburn. But they got at Florida, which can be a tough place to play. But the way Florida fans are, that state just doesn't – I don't know what it is. That state – sports is just such a distraction to that state. But maybe they get a pretty noisy crowd. They'll show up because it's Kentucky. There's some great games in the past between these two. Maybe they'll show up, and it'll be a difficult game. Kentucky, who's just been all over the place this year. I mean, all over the place. But they find a way. They beat – again, they lost to Georgia on the road, but then they turn around and beat Mississippi State on the road. Georgia is nowhere near a Mississippi State, right? And then they beat Tennessee, who's top 10 in the country, who's arguably, I mean, they're probably a 2 or 3 seed, right, at worst. Now they go on the road. I think they'll slip up, but I could see them being on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-game win streak walking into Fayetteville, and all of a sudden that game, well, I mean, it's going to have big meaning unless Kentucky loses a bunch of games, but it's going to have big meaning. And if they come in there with that win streak, there's going to be so much on this game. It's going to be another big opportunity for both these teams. So, again, it's important that they get things figured out on the offensive end of the floor now. It is too little too late, I would argue, but they still, they have some opportunities. This is it. And then after that, right after Georgia, that's it, man. This is that part of the schedule we've talked about. At Bama, at Tennessee, and then, the anomaly that is I don't even know if anomaly is the right word. The bizarro Kentucky Wildcats, whatever they are. If you don't want to catch Kentucky at their best, I think Kentucky at their best could probably beat some really good basketball teams. So maybe Arkansas will catch them at their worst. I don't know. But I could see Kentucky walking into Fayetteville with a win streak. So it's just that much more important because these games are so meaningful that you get things figured out. And Nick Smith is such a huge piece. He's such a huge piece for the Razorbacks. If they figure out the rotation, if the chemistry, and maybe we're starting to see signs of that. Nick Smith played the most minutes he's played since being back against Florida. I don't know if he starts against Georgia or not. I don't know. But maybe he comes off the bench or whatever. If he starts or if he's off the bench, it doesn't matter. He gets a solid 30 minutes, 35 minutes of play, and we see some production, maybe not from a scoring standpoint, but we see him, Musselman using him as that big chess piece on the floor, on the board. Teams are going to be distracted with him. But in order for that to happen, you've got to sell something. You've got to show signs of life. And we really haven't yet. Nick started to get into that against Florida. We saw him quickly get some points, and then he kind of vanished because of the way the defense altered to him. But I'd love to see him just put up I'd love to see this dude come out and get 16, 18 points. rack up a few assists, look like that back, like that other, when Black's on the bench, he can be that point guard. He can now play that one spot when Anthony Black is on the bench. I would love for him to step into that role and to do that and to show teams like, don't get me wrong, no matter what kind of performance he has against Georgia, teams are still going to circle him. They're still going to circle him. They're going to circle Anthony Black. They're going to circle Ricky Council. But I think it's that much more important. Also, from the standpoint of getting Hog fans even more invested, that's something else, right? I mean, if I talk to Hog fans on the street, when I bump into someone, I was talking to some family yesterday that was helping clean out the garage that I was telling you guys about earlier. The first thing out of their mouth, this was my brother-in-law. He said, yeah, I try not to watch Arkansas basketball. He's not a bandwagon fan. He's just talking about what he's seen. Like, when you look at losing to Mississippi State and A&M, 2 games you shouldn't have lost, 2 games you felt like you probably should have won. When you lost, what was it, Auburn, Bama, Vanderbilt, Missouri. Like, fans are letting go of the rope, right? Well, all of a sudden, now here's this narrative. Nick Smith's back. Hold up. Nick Smith's back. Fans are going to watch that. So if fans are going to show up to Georgia, and I guarantee you they're all going to watch because they know Arkansas is a tournament team. They want to watch a quality team on the floor, but also Nick Smith. We could get the Nick Smith show back, and the more people buy into that, it's only going to be better, especially when we talk about that Kentucky game at home. You're going to have a packed Bud Walton Arena to see Nick Smith and the boys take on maybe a red-hot Kentucky Wildcat team. A lot of things here. So much to discuss, so much to ponder and think about. But this is your last chance, right, against a team you should be favored by 14 points to beat. It should be a cakewalk. Maybe it starts off slow because that's typical of Arkansas, those first 5-6 minutes. I hope we don't see 2 points in the first 4 or 5 minutes by Arkansas, but whatever. That's just kind of their MO. They're going to start off a little slow. But maybe we see that offense and it starts to click. It'd be nice to see that. It's hard to take it super serious when it's Florida and Georgia. But imagine Arkansas breaking that 80 seal again tonight, and then they've got a little bit of confidence going into Alabama. I don't like their odds against Bama at all. I don't like anybody's odds against Bama, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know what to expect out of them in the NCAA tournament. No one wants to play Bama. Nobody wants to play them. But to be honest, I think the truth can be said about Arkansas. With Nick Smith back, which is now the narrative. Go listen to SEC Network. I just listened to the shooters say that no one wants to play Arkansas because Nick Smith Jr. is back, and it gives them a new and a different dynamic on the offensive end of the floor. I feel like Nick Smith, I'm not saying he goes off against Georgia, but I think we see a bigger glimpse of what he's capable of tomorrow against Georgia. Again, that's an 8 p.m. tip-off. You got 2 left. You got 2 8 p.m. tip-offs left. But Arkansas, Georgia, SEC Network, 8 p.m. tip-off tomorrow. Looking forward to it. It's going to be another late game. It's going to be another late post-game show, but I'll be here to talk about it. So let's look at this poll. Where are we at on it? Okay, we've got a number of votes. Hogs can upset either Tennessee or Bama on the road. 80% of you say yes, and I'm assuming you guys feel like that's probably Tennessee. To be honest, Kentucky scares me more than at Tennessee. Seems like Kentucky has figured it out. You just don't know what to expect, Tony. I mean, that's what's wild to me about the Wildcats. It's like what team shows up. Now, if they have figured it out and they are starting to get healthier and they are starting to mesh, what a time to get red hot. This is the time for them. And the same thing could be said of Arkansas with Nick Smith. I'd be so nervous playing Georgia because the consequences of losing the game is so great. Yeah, but, I mean, you could have said that against Florida, and Arkansas smoked Florida. With or without Castleton, I think Arkansas wins that game. We haven't gotten – Nathan Pruitt says we haven't gotten a good kick out to Nick in the corner yet. I think one of those would really help us going forward. Yeah. What's the odds Brazil returns, Ty? Next year? I don't know. I have no idea. You just never know. Trey, I have no idea, man. We'll see. I hope I hope they get him back next year because I loved what we saw out of him. And his potential is so high. In the crazy scenario that we make the national championship, is there a chance Trevon would be able to go? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, don't quote me on that. I try to steer away from guessing on these, and these kids too. They've got people in their ear, and then they got to listen to the doctors. Of course they do as they should. You just don't know. I would say right now probably odds are 0. I don't think he'd be available. But I'll just say what I have heard is there are 0 chances that he laces them up this year at all for Arkansas. This year. Just an unimportant fun question about Nick Smith. Can he dunk? Oh, he can dunk. I can't remember seeing him dunk. Also, I'm on medicine, so maybe this is a dumb question. I might be doped up, so please pardon the question. That's pretty good. Yeah, he can dunk. I mean, I think he prefers those nice clean little finishes at the iron. I think he likes those little clean layups. I mean, yeah, he could dunk. That's funny. Does winning out get us out of the treacherous? Yeah, 7-10 seed is tough. Some people would argue they would rather be an 11 seed. How many 11 seeds won last year? Wasn't it 2? 2 of the 11 seeds won, or maybe it was 3. I would rather be an 11 seed than a 7. Yeah, I agree with that. I would argue 7 to 10, 8 could be the worst seeding, or 9. Not trying to play. Let's see. Not trying to play a top 2 seed in the second round. Yeah, that matters. Not that the 11 seeds have it easy. Winning out should get us a 6 at least. I don't see them winning out. But yeah, if you won out, I could see, I mean, at that point, depending on where the net ranking has you, I mean, my God, you have Alabama and Tennessee left, and Kentucky who's bumping up in the net. Where is Kentucky on the net? I mean, this is going to change by the time we play them. I get that. But were they not a top, they were top, 40? Is that right? Let's see. Yeah, they're 35th in net. 4-7 versus quad 1, 5-1 versus quad 2, undefeated 3-0 against quad 3, 6-1 versus that quad 4. That one loss in quad 4 also that keeps them out of the top 30. Auburn is behind you. A&M is at 28th in net rankings, and then Arkansas right now is 19th in the net rankings. You guys, I mean, again, we were told, if you guys go back and watch that Blake Level interview, the computers love the SEC. And maybe, I was, after Arkansas lost, who was that, A&M? What loss was that? I don't remember what post game I said the SEC's garbage. It's either the SEC's garbage or the SEC's a lot better than we think they are. I mean, Lenardi's still, and now he hasn't updated his bracketology yet this week, but or at least not since I've gone live. I checked earlier. But he still had 7 teams as of last week in the NCAA tournament. When you consider how poorly teams do in postseason play, again, another point that Blake Level made about officiating postseason for the SEC, how it's difficult to adjust to. Sometimes you just play to your strengths in postseason, and for a lot of teams, it's getting to the free throw line. Maybe Arkansas is the anomaly, where they were really good at getting to the free throw line in SEC play, and yet they were able to adjust to the officiating in the tournament, and they went on that run. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting point, again, by Blake Level. Blake killed that interview, you guys. He was awesome. But hoping to have him on again soon. I'd love to talk to him before the SEC tournament. But, yeah, I think Kentucky it'd be nice to see them win out. You're kind of, and I hate to say this, you're kind of rooting. Oh, I appreciate that, Chris McKnight, on the quote tweet. Thanks, man. Hogs, thanks for the share on Twitter. Appreciate that, boys. Thanks a lot, fellas. You're kind of rooting for Kentucky, and I know that sucks to say, but you kind of are, because if they can win out going into Fayetteville, they're probably a top 25 seed at that point. And so you've got 2, assuming Arkansas takes care of business, even if they go 0 for 2 the next, even if Arkansas, okay, let's say they beat Georgia, but then they lose to Tennessee and Bama, which is absolutely probably, if you ask any outsider looking in, whether it's an analyst or whatever, they'll probably say the most likely is that Arkansas finishes 500 these last 4 games. They win their 2 at home, they lose the 2 on the road. I think even if that happens, you're probably still at least a top 30 seed. Top 30 net ranked team. So, what does that do for you in terms of seeding? How much does the SEC tournament help or hurt you, right, at that point? You got to take care of business. And I think it'd be awesome if they could split Alabama and Tennessee. I would say right now, no. That's where I'm at, because Arkansas has not shown me that really they can take care of business on the road outside of Kentucky. I think some of that is just Muss has Calipari's number. I really do. I think Muss is just a better coach. I think he has his number. I think Musselman probably circles that game on his calendar. He probably knows more about Kentucky than the average Kentucky fan before the season even starts. Or even the most diehard Kentucky fans, or even the most, the media that follows them. I bet he knows more about Kentucky. I feel like he circles that game because Kentucky is, let's be real, when you think of SEC basketball, typically you think of Kentucky, right? And so I'm sure knowing his mindset, that's the game he circles. And yeah, I'm sure Nate Oates, I'm sure he's got that game circled as well with Barnes and Oates, but I think he's a better coach than Cal. But we've only seen them so far one really good performance on the road this year. That's why I would say no. I don't like them to beat either one of these teams on the road. I haven't seen them beat a quality opponent. Again, Kentucky's kind of I don't know. Maybe they caught Kentucky on a bad day, along with Muss just being a better coach. He's not afraid of Rupp Arena. He's never lost inside Rupp Arena. Not that he has a large amount of wins or a large amount of opportunities there, but I just don't know that I see them winning either one of those games. Tennessee is still really good at home. They're going to be ready for Arkansas. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. No, Arkansas at their best, I think, could beat anybody in this league, including Alabama. I do. At their best with a healthy Nick Smith, yeah, I think they could be undefeated. Well, I'm sorry. They could win out these final 4 games. Absolutely. We just haven't seen them do that, especially over a 4-game stretch. We've not seen them in SEC play. We've not seen them play their best basketball over a 4-game stretch. We've not seen it in SEC play. Not meeting or coming close to their ceiling. Now they've got Nick back. I think they're capable of doing it. I just don't know that we actually see it. But at their best, I think Arkansas could beat Bama. It'd be a hell of a game. It might be an overtime kind of game. But then the question is, if you're playing Bama at their best versus Arkansas at their best, I don't know, man. That's a little bit tougher because Bama, I don't think Arkansas wins that one. But if they catch Alabama maybe kind of sleeping, they won't, though. Nate Oates is going to have them guys ready. 80% of you say yes, Arkansas can split Tennessee or Bama. 80% of you guys. I would be in the no category, but I hope I'm wrong. Muss has outcoached Calipari. He has dominated Calipari. What, 1 loss? Is that right? That game where Cal got ejected? He knew what he was doing. Cal knew what he was doing, and it worked. But as an 11 seed, you're treading shallow water in the fact that two of the 11 seeds play in Dayton, which is the last thing we're trying to do, says Tony. I still remember during the summer when Kentucky fans were calling for Calipari's head, all these Kentucky fans talking like they could walk in and take Muss. I don't think he'd leave here for Kentucky. We got the cash. I don't even want to get into that argument because Kentucky has shown, for the most part, no matter who the head coach is, they can recruit at a consistent top 3 level, right? Their emphasis at that school is basketball. Here it's football, basketball, baseball, right? We put an emphasis on all 3 sports. You're kind of sharing the limelight. Like Sam last year, you weren't really talking about Musselman until March. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like when these guys are at their best and going on that run, Muss, if he's on a run, he's the governor of Arkansas. But if like Bobby Petrino, when he won 20 games in 2 years, he was the governor of Arkansas, right? It didn't matter what any other sport was doing. Like, you own the state if you're football. It's different at Kentucky. Kentucky basketball reigns supreme, and that's just and their emphasis. They want to win in basketball. They've kind of locked themselves into a tough situation with Calipari. I think his buyout's a little steep, but I don't know. I'm not willing to say that if Kentucky came knocking on on Cal's door, if Kentucky came knocking on Muss's door, that Muss would necessarily at least not hear them out. Arkansas at their best, he's shown that he can recruit at a high level here. So, and because of that, maybe that's all the evidence he needs to see. I would be more worried about Kentucky than probably any school outside of maybe another West Coast team, right? Texas, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. Anything can happen. I mean, money is money at the end of the day. But I think he wants to coach somewhere where he feels his family is comfortable, where he feels like he has a high ceiling. He's made back-to-back Elite Eights here. Arkansas could go on a run and march again. I think they're capable. Again, with a healthy Nick Smith, I think they're more than capable of going on a nice run. He has shown, if he wanted to prove to himself that he could recruit at a high level here, he's done that. He's shown that he could lure in some of the best transfers that can help him win. He's shown that he can do that here. So what he can do here, he has shown himself that he could do. Now, how much of that is him now? Oh, well, if I can do it here, I can do it anywhere, right? I don't know, man. There's a lot of different ways we can look at it and kind of break it down. I don't know that he retires here. I'll just say that. I don't know that he retires here. I just hope I would love to see him here for 10 years. I don't know that I see that happening. I hope I'm wrong. I kind of have a hard time seeing him here for 7 or 8 years. I don't know. He is, in the offseason, he's the most talked about basketball coach in college basketball in the offseason. He backs it up on the floor. He backs it up out on the recruiting trail. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that. But, Nolan was dominant here for a long time, and he never left. He had to be shown the door. Of course, things ended on a really bad note, and there are outside reasons as to what happened, right? But I don't know, man. It is hard to take from Arkansas when they have something they want. When Arkansas has something they really like, it's hard to take away from them. So I don't know. I hate this conversation because there's so many things that happen behind the scenes. We don't know what Muss is thinking. We don't know how desperate some of these teams are to come get Muss. I don't even like to comment on it because I don't know, man. I really don't know. I hope they get him for 10 years. I really do. And I hope he hangs a banner here before he leaves. A couple would be wonderful. I'll take Muss over. Okay. The poll said can. I think they are. I think they are capable. Not likely, but capable. All right. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you, sir. The all caps came through for you again. Could see him leaving for USC, UCLA, Arizona schools. Yeah, West Coast. I'm not going to lie to you. When a West Coast team comes knocking on the door, I'm a little concerned. Not even going to lie. I'm a little concerned if a West Coast team comes knocking on his door. That worries me. That's home to him. He knows that area. He can recruit out there, and West Coast does have talent. Let's not sit here and act like California, Arizona. Like, these are states that can produce and attract talent. And not only that, another thing we haven't talked enough about, how much it may not even be a money thing. It may not even be a recruiting thing. It can be and I get it that there are other conferences that have to deal with this too. I don't know if it's as bad as it is in this conference. The guys that officiate this league. I've said it on Twitter. I've said it here. I'm not saying that, you always blame officiating. No, you don't. I can count on one finger, on one hand, how many times I've blamed officials for an actual loss in basketball, and that was the Mizzou game. But the product on the floor for the SEC, thanks to officiating, is so shitty, you kind of wonder if that doesn't run off some of these coaches and some of these players, some of these prospects. I don't want to go play or coach in a league where the officials take over ball games. Refs in the guys that officiate the SEC are garbage. That I could see that being something that he thinks about. He is that kind. We know he's an analytical mind. He's an X's and O's. I mean, that's a broad term nowadays. And if something gets in the way of his ability to put a better product on the floor and it's something outside of his control, like officiating, which is mostly outside of his control, I could see him to hell with this. I'm out. Until the officiating gets better over here, I'm, whatever. I'm never coming back. Yeah. And he's, I mean, it's not just Arkansas. I'm not saying it just for Arkansas. Someone on Twitter told me, watch out, you can't say that because it looks like you're making an excuse for Arkansas. No, I'm not making an excuse for Arkansas. That's all. Go watch ACC basketball. Go watch Big 12 basketball. Pac-12, as garbage as that conference is this year, which is so surprising how bad they've gotten over the years. But go look. It's a different product on the floor. The games are just called differently from an officiating standpoint. They get in the way. And so much so that it makes you wonder, maybe that's why SEC teams actually do struggle in postseason play, because of their inability to adapt to an entirely different way of officiating. So, yeah, I don't know that we talk enough about that. Maybe that's something that Muss considers. It's tough to coach in a league where it's all about the officials in these games. I'm just saying. And until it gets fixed, I don't know. Like, at this point, like, it's so odd, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. And yet you have added quality coaches, or at least guys. I mean, you can't overlook some of the names that have been brought into this league from a coaching standpoint. But I think over the last 3 or 4 years, the officiating has just gotten that much worse. I think it's always been pretty bad. College basketball officiating is not always the best. If you watch NBA and you try to compare the two, but it's not really fair to compare the two. But, as someone who does, when the Celtics are on, I'm going to watch the Celtics. I might catch the Lakers just to watch them play, even though I absolutely hate the Lakers. Still always interesting to see what's going on. But I'll catch Tatum in the Tatum in the Celtics. I'll watch them play. I'll watch those games. Come postseason, you bet your ass I'm going to watch those Celtics games. It's an entirely different brand of basketball. College is different, but I would argue that the SEC is so far down the totem pole of well-officiated games, of well-balanced games. Now, have they been as bad as the Mizzou game earlier in the year at Mizzou? No, they have actually improved a little bit, but it's still I don't know, man. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's just the officials are taking over these games. It's becoming unwatchable, and it's ruining the product that is SEC basketball. You want to lure in casuals, you want to lure in people who just kind of are so-so with college basketball. You can't do it with these officials on the floor. You just can't. So that's my rant. Well, thank you for listening to my TED speech. All right, that's going to do it. I'm way over. I got to feed these kids lunch. Probably going to head to the old Taco Bell, grab me a Baja Blast. They don't have nacho fries anymore, damn it. But I'm hungry. I'm going to go grab me a bean burrito and a Baja Blast Mountain Dew. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, subscribe. I will be live tomorrow for the post game. Don't know. Wednesday shows are always kind of up in the air. All I can say is just make sure you have the notification bell clicked. It's the only thing I could tell you. Notifications aren't going out. I've told you guys this the last live. The notifications are not going out. My videos are no longer being recommended. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I swear. I don't know what's going on. My videos are not being recommended anymore. So I would just tell you, hit the notification bell. Make sure you like. And the more you interact with this type of content, the more likely you are to get notifications. So that's all I could tell you. I'll try to let you guys know in Discord, 5-10 minutes before I go live, that I'm going to go live. Right now, Wednesday's kind of up in the air. I imagine I will have a Wednesday show, but I've got a lot going on this week, so I'm not sure. But we are going to talk Friday. Got a big series, Eastern Illinois. Again, they're undefeated at the moment. So we'll talk about that matchup a little bit, as much as we can anyways. And, of course, we'll be talking about the rest of the SEC basketball schedule. You got some big ones. Bama and Tennessee coming up. Big, big opportunities. And like I said, it's Nick Smith's time to shine. He doesn't have to do it from a scoring standpoint. But you would love to see him take off. You would love to see there be a reason why you circle his name, why you circle his number for an opposing team. You want to add validity to that. You want to add, listen, this is why he's a problem. You'd love to see him start to do that more. and settle into this team on both ends of the floor. Hopefully he's a consistent two-way player, but imagine what he can do. Imagine what he can do for this offense as he opens up the floor and he becomes the guy. Maybe he becomes that guy. We've been talking about this. He becomes that guy in the final 4 minutes where he could just take a game over. Maybe he could JD Note this bad boy. Maybe he could be that guy. Imagine if they found that. Or maybe he can help someone else be that guy by simply being on the floor, right? All right. You guys enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll see you tomorrow night. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Woo pig, go Hogs. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Hey, let's go eat some Taco Bell.